welcome back. And now we are going to cover our second example onto our series, that is Java 8 series, and what is consumer. We quickly discussed about this particular example in my last session that we covered just some time back. So what we covered over here is that a consumer simply takes one input mandatory value, and once this value is given it will perform some operations onto it, right? And once those operations are being performed, this thing is going to not to return anything, right? So in this particular way, a consumer accepts an integer value, or depending upon the type of consumer we have made, it can be integer or can be a string anyway, right? Once it will accept the mandatory input value, that value is taken by the consumer performs the basic operations, and once those basic operations are being performed, consumer does not returns anything, right? So if a requirement matches these kinds of criteria, right, we can simply make use of consumers. So the very first requirement is of printing a table of particular number, right? We just covered it. Again, I'm reiterating this particular topic over here. So over here, what is happening? We will be printing a table of 7, right? 7 cross 1 is equal to 7. 7 cross 2 equals to 14. In this particular manner, we are going to print a table of a particular uh, integer, right? So in order to do that, we would be providing the input value like that for which table number we want to print the value, for which table we want to print the entire table. And we are just basically we would be making use of it in the form of a display, right? We are not going to utilize that. If we do not want to utilize that, it simply becomes a candidate of your consumer. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that in case there would be scenarios in your automation stuff or any other areas where you may be required to input the value and display its table over here, right? Like in a railway reservation system. Okay, so you just enter your PNR number over here in IRCTC website, and it's totally displays all the records associated with that particular, right? It is not returning you anything, and with that record, now you are not going to perform any other action or passing the output or the return of the PNR method to any other place, right? I hope I have made some sense. Now let's quickly create a consumer. Back to the topic. So I'm creating a consumer that is going to accept some integer kind of stuff, and the name, or let's give it a meaningful name to this consumer like printing table. Okay, now we are going to define it. It will take mandatorily one input parameter, right? So let's say the input parameter or the table integer that we are going to print, it's, let's say, I. And now let's provide the final implementation over here, right? I hope you guys remember the rules of writing a lambda expression. Okay, so over here what we are going to do is that first, let's say I'll be taking an array list of integer. Okay, let's say L1 equals new array list. So what I am trying to do over here is that I am defining an array list over here, and I'll be storing the values over here in the array list, and we'll be printing the table of 7. Okay, so array list, let's say this is of type integer. Okay, in this array list, try to add something like l1 dot add. Let's say I have added 1. L1 dot add, I have added 2. L1 dot add, I am adding 3. This time I am not going to add all 10 values. And let's say our requirement is to print first 3 values of table of 7, let's say. Okay, so over here it is, I have added these 3 elements over here, 1, 2 and 3, right? Input we will provide in the form of accept method like 7, and 7 cross 1, 7 cross 2, 7 cross 3, right? How we will do, I'll just let you know, guys. But over here, if you want to print or you want to see whether these values really got inserted or not, you can do this over here. Okay, and now if you go and run your file, the list gonna show you some sort of data, right? It will be showing some sort of data. So let me first printing table dot accept. And what is the table number you want to print? Let's say 7, I was saying. So now I am going to run this file. Right. So what is happening over here? I have provided 7 over here, right? This input value has gone over here in place of I, and now some I created an array list. It is a very simple concept. I added 3 elements, and now I am simply printing array list. So why I am printing? So as to see whether it got added or not, right? Now in order to print the 7, the very basic like childlike logic that I am using over here for understanding purposes. In this list, element at position 0, element at position 1, and element at position 3. I am going to get all these elements at all these positions, right? So list dot get index. So at index 0, guys, we have 1 present over there, right? So what I'm going to print, 1 cross 1 multiplied by, and what is our number? What is the number that we have given? That is 7. This 7 is going in the form of I over here, right? So that cross I, sorry, it could be small I, right? In the same way, if I print it 3 different times at index 1 and then at index 2, right? So at the first index 0, 1, first index 2, and second index 3, right? And we are talking about array list. That is why we are building this logic, right? So 1 cross 7, then 2 cross 7, and then 3 cross 7. Let's try to print it, right? So this is the first way of printing a table. Yeah, the problem is that it's gonna consume 10 lines of code. This is a childlike kind of implementation, right? And the very old way that we have been used to once we were learning Java is that we can also do it with the help of a for loop over here, right? So let's say for int k equals 1. It's very simple logic. K less than 11, k plus plus. We just need to print it out over here. K cross I. So I is 7. 7 cross 1, first time 7. 7 cross 2. In the same way, right? I hope you guys know, since we are dealing with Java 8 concepts, so these are the basic things. I am assuming everybody knows. Okay. If not, let me know in the comment section. I'll explain. Okay, so these are the ways, two different ways by which we can print the table using consumer concept, right? So if I remove these many lines, this is the first way by which we can print the table of 7, right? You just need to call this consumer and just provide the values. You want to print the table of 15, very fine, in just one single line I can do that. I just need to call this printing table dot accept consumer name dot pass the input mandatory field, right? See, we have the entire table over here, right? And the second way that we used to do is that in this particular fashion, enter all these values like 1, 2, 3 in the form of an array list, and then get the index and then print it. There can be n number of logics, right? So the only thing my concept over here was to show you guys how to print a table in two different ways using a consumer of type integer. Okay, so till now we have done. In the next lecture we are going to cover this particular example. Okay, so please stay tuned, and thank you for your time and thank you for your patience. I'm signing off as of now. Thank you, team.